Welcome to the Backstage Pastor, everybody, where we are backstage and we are not live. I'm here with my lovely older sister, one and only older sister, Mary. Please say your name.
Wow.
I don't know why, but whenever we start a podcast, a little bit of the goofies come out just before not the goofies, the childlikeness. A little bit.
You should have asked for the favorite color too.
Yes, Mary. Okay, let's start with this. Paul, pull your mic up nice and close. Lower. Yeah. Okay. Share your name, your visa number, and one word that describes you. Start with Mary Bear.
That's funny. Well, my name is Mary.
Yes.
And
I have to
and
do
one
that once
word
in every
that
podcast.
describes me is
Curly.
I'm gonna say patient because, living with these guys.
Paul, would you agree with that?
I decline to answer.
Your turn.
Okay, this is Mary. No visa number, and she is patient. Paul, what's your name?
Well, I'm Paul, as you may have remembered.
Paul Kenneth.
Paul, that's correct. And
one word.
Nerdy has always been.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Mare?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say nerdy. I would probably say bookwormy.
Bookworm?
Bookish.
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 It's late. What time is it? Anyway, people, this is Mary and Paul, and I am Jimmy.
Is it like Peter, Paul, and Mary, the band?
Right, but there's no Peter here.
So
I'm James.
You're Peter and James, Paul, and
fun fact, my real name is James. Did you guys know that?
Now we can be a band.
Middle name is Douglas. Okay, listeners, this is 3/9, which I guess is 1/3. This is 3/9 of the noble children. I would love to at one point get the whole family on the backstage.
Oh, wow.
With mom and dad. I would love to get dad on the Backstage Pastor.
Yeah.
Just talk old hunting stories and Vietnam, and he'd probably talk American politics.
Some good
Dad's American.
Stories.
Mom and dad are American. We're kind of American.
Yeah.
But this is Paul and Mary. So there's 9 kids. It goes David, Mark, and then Mary, and then me, Joseph, Stephen, Luke, Paul, second from the youngest. Paul was the youngest for a long time.
8 years.
For 8 years. And then happy accident, Josh. Josh popped out and came into this world. So David is 41 or 40. I think he just turned 40. And Josh is 17. So whatever that gap is, 26 years.
24.
Is it 24 from oldest to youngest?
Yeah.
I guess. Wow. I've told people 26 for forever. But we just thought it would be cool to, Luke is also here in town. The brother, right? Luke had Luke on the podcast the other day. He's right above Paul, but he couldn't make it. But we thought it would be super cool to just reminisce about our childhood a little bit and talk about our parents and how they parented. And Mary just reminded me that my mom, if you're listening to this, hello, that mom listens to this. So we are going to only say positive things. But the truth is,
there's a lot of positive.
Yes, we had a very positive experience. But I would just love to reminisce about our childhood, like how our parents set us up, what they did, maybe more importantly, what they didn't do. It's been 17 years since I've been at home, or 16 or something like that. 18 for you, 5, 6 for you, Paul, 7? 7 years. So we've all been out on our own, independent. We're mostly 2/3 of us are married. 2/3 of us have kids.
Not six
one.
ninths.
6/9 of us.
Yeah, 6/9 of us have kids and are married. Paul's single, I think. I mean, we haven't talked in a while, Paul, but I'll just say Paul's single here. Very eligible. Mary works at Evangel here as our family pastor. Her husband, Vadim, works at Evangel full-time as our discipleship executive, cool pastor. And Paul works for Bob Zimmer in politics, which is a busy time for them right now. Just traveling all over the place.
Middle of a federal election right now. So
Yep. To what? 2 weeks away?
2 weeks away. Yeah. Just under 2 weeks.
Yep. So I asked if Paul would come on the podcast. He said, "Yep, we just can't talk politics because it's a pretty hot topic right now, or just lots happening." But we aren't. We're just gonna reminisce about our childhood. So I would just love to talk about our growing up years. You know the I don't know if it's a saying, but the idea that like when you're in it, you don't necessarily recognize you're in it. Is there a saying for that?
I don't know.
You don't know the forest for the trees, or something like basically when you're in it, you don't recognize how different it is. And I think specifically with like how we grew up, it's just normal how we grew up from being homeschooled our whole life. Being homeschoolers, some of us are more homeschoolery than others here.
Yes, thank you very much.
And just the standards that mom and dad had for what comes in the home, friends, that we were allowed to hang out with or not hang out with, breakfast devotions. What emotions come when I say breakfast devotions? 366 days a year, breakfast devotions.
No, not Sundays. We never had it Sundays.
Or Saturday.
Oh, because we had church.
No, we had Saturdays.
Oh.
Yeah, Paul, you got to kiss that
that.
mic there.
What family did you grow up in?
Well, here's why she said that. Do you remember Mary disappearing in devotions, having to go to the bathroom for the entire hour?
I also remember you showing up to the table wrapped in a blanket and then
Not
leaning your head on the table and listening, and everybody knew you were sleeping.
Do you guys remember? It felt like what was the passage that Dad was stuck on? It felt like for a year. Was it Samson?
John the Baptist?
John the Baptist.
His beheading.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's like he just could not move on. It's like we just endured and
Apparently,
endured.
there's some wisdom in there. Maybe it'll come back.
John the Baptist. So I would love to just like reminisce and have a conversation. This ain't going to be interview style, so just jet in. But maybe I will just start with this question. What were, like looking back now, you've been out of the home for 18 years or whatever, Mare, 7 years, Paul. Looking back now, what are some of the things that you're like so thankful for? And maybe things that were in the moment were just so annoying or frustrating, because I have those. I have lots of those. But looking back now that I'm a father of 5 and raising my children, I'm just so actually thankful for those. What are some of those things? Paul, you start. Kiss that mic.
The one of the first that comes to mind is that while there was a lot of structure in our lives, breakfast was at 7:30, lunch was at 12:30.
And breakfast devos. Then what happened after breakfast?
And then
do your chores.
do your chores,
Put your pile away
put your file away, and go to school
at 9.
at 9. And so like, while there was that structure, there's also something that I've appreciated looking back on is the emphasis that our parents put on the final result. They didn't so much care about how the work got done or how stuff was done, as long as you did it or the task was completed. You didn't have to do it a dumb way just because that's the way you're supposed to do it. So they really applauded ingenuity and just thinking stuff through.
Right.
So like, I think for
yeah.
me in my life, that's also now with my job that I have.
How's it helped?
It's extremely helpful because I look at when my boss wants something done, I look at the final product, what needs to be accomplished, and then work back from there, rather than looking at the start and being like, okay, what do I need to do first, and then second, and then third.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Hey, can I ask a question? You said your word for you would be nerd, or I said bookworm. Do you think that, because I remember from early on, it's like, where's Paul? Nobody knows, but what we did know is he was outside under a tree, or he was in a corner of a house, or he was laying on a couch or on his bed in some sort of book, reading a book, which, by the way, was so opposite of me. I don't think I read a book until Bible school. I mean, not that bad, but did that just naturally happen, or do you think mom and dad like did something like, nature versus nurture?
I think some of it, because if you look at all of our family members, there's none of us that like hate reading. So like, there's something that mom and dad did that we were all very comfortable reading, that it wasn't as much of a chore. Right. But I think for me, it was a love of reading. Like, I would get lost. I'd be up all night reading whatever books.
Yeah.
And that transferred. That's actually why my boss told me why he hired me, was because he heard I was working on a job, and the entire lunch break I would just be reading. It was a physical job, not a lot of,
because you were working with Tim, capacity. Right? His son. Yeah.
So I think that's it's been extremely helpful. Like, the amount of stuff that I read every day is massive. I work on the policy side of politics.
How many pages a day averaging?
When the house is sitting, I'll average anywhere from 50 to 200 pages of like legal documents or government reports.
That's insane.
And then on top of that, probably, I don't know, 20 to 40 news articles about what's happening, and then writing on top of that.
Is reading that work to you, or are you just fascinated every second?
Some of it is fascinating. A lot of it is just dredging through the mud looking for gold.
Yeah.
But I definitely have found that, like, when I'm doing that, when I'm working at that pace, I don't have the capacity for any reading at the end of the day. Like, I get home, and I'm read out.
Vegetable. Yeah.
Do you remember the reading rules?
Just kiss your mic there.
that
mom had?
Like, we had reading rules. That's how much we love to read. I don't know if it was with
David,
the younger
Mark,
ones.
Mary, and Paul.
We would love to read. So we were only allowed to read before breakfast. So we'd have to get up early to read.
Yeah.
And we could read after our school was done at the end of the day. And we would just like work so hard to get done so that we could read.
I can't tell you how many times I got spanking for reading when I was not supposed to.
Yeah. Mom would catch you just snuck away under a bed or something.
And mom would tell other moms, and there was just like this lack of like understanding
I can't
that
get my
was
child
possible.
to even read.
That
is still
funny.
so fascinating to me. I remember when Santa Claus would come, and we would all get a book, and you, Dave and Mark, fighting over your books, and Dave and Mark like sneaking in and finding your book so that they could read it.
Frank Peretti was a hot item in our Christmas gifts.
That's definitely like something like I did not get. Like, last place you'd find me. Last place. What are some things for you, Mare? I forget the initial question, but that you felt like were maybe like so shaping for you about the foundation that you grew up. Things mom and dad did or didn't do. You can share more than one.
Well, I feel like I thought of a few earlier, and then I was thinking about the structure thing. But yeah, I think the structure, the combination of structure and flexibility, what I think it was huge in creating, like, learning to have structure. I think mom is quite structured. Dad is very flexible.
That's a dad, if you're listening, that's a compliment.
And so the combination of that, I think, made us all learn how to, like, structure our day, how to get jobs done, how to be task oriented, to get her done, but also the flexibility and kind of, I don't know, is whimsical the word, but that kind of to just all of a sudden spontaneously go and do this or go and do that. And I feel like that's still very much a part of who I am. I do like that structure, but then that ease to just, go and do something else and make it fun, I feel like was always a fun part of our upbringing. I mean, there was obviously some tension there always.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, there was that fun there because it was like, oh, let's do this. And so it was fun to go and, break the structure and then come back into that, and I feel like it's a big part of that.
Or disappear with dad for a weekend to Seton Portage and
explain that. Like, what does that mean? Mom and dad are full-time missionaries to Canada from America.
Yeah. And so one of the things dad would often do long, like 2 to 3 day trips, whether it was to Fort Nelson or often out towards Bella Coola or further south, Seton Portage. And dad would just go hit the road and go visit people, go talk with people, and try to minister to them, especially in rural areas where there wasn't necessarily like a functioning church.
Yeah, because the mission organization was called the Shantymen, which originally was they would go out to what's a shanty?
It was the shacks that would be built along the railroads for the railroad workers,
like out of the way places. So missionaries to out of the way places, and so that's what Dad often did, like reserves way out in the middle of nowhere.
But one thing also, like, about our childhood with that, like, often Dad would take 1 or 2 of us with him on these trips, and so, like, in many ways, I think we spent a lot more time with our father, comparatively, considering there was 9 of us, of one-on-one time with our dad, because he would just be like, all right, we're heading for a couple days. Who wants to come with me?
Yeah.
And you would just go, and you would live on pepperoni and gas store nachos and Diet Coke.
Yeah, and once in a while, McDonald's. Yes. That would be like the one time of the year that we'd get to eat out. Hey, do you guys ever remember on those they were called deputation trips with Dad, thinking that Dad died? And you were left alone, and you were like 11 years old and would have to figure out how to drive the vehicle all the way home.
So many times.
Because Dad loves people. Like, he's such an evangelist. And so he'd go to a house or go to a reserve or go into the local store and be like, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I kid you not, like an hour later sometimes.
More.
And you're just like, he raptured, he died. You're just thinking that he got murdered. And then he comes back.
Yeah.
Like, just when you're ready to start driving the car home at age 11, he comes back out.
Or you're like, you're a couple hours away from home, and Dad would be like, oh, I just want to stop and see this one person. I haven't seen him in a while. Don't worry, this will be quick. And you'd end up like going for coffee. And they're like, well, you might as well stay for supper. And then it's like,
it's
you know what?
Spend the night.
Might as well spend the night.
Yeah. It's so true. That is so true. The little town Seton Portage. I've not heard that ever. Where is that, by Cache Creek or something?
Yeah. West of there, if you're going out towards
kind of up in the mountains. Yeah. That is so funny.
Actually, I don't know if this was because of people, but I remember my dad, we were in the car and he went to check on a fence or something. I think that's when we lived really rural, like out in Dog Creek.
Right.
And
2 hours from town.
And then I thought, oh no, what happened to him? And I got little Jimmy. I was probably like
you and I were with him?
4, 3, 5, and you were 2 or 3. And got you and started walking across the field. And then Dad, we could see him coming over. I mean, for us,
really,
it felt
you
like he
started
was
walking
so
me
far.
home.
Yeah, so I started walking Jimmy home, and Dad was like, "Why did you get out of the
That's
truck?"
crazy.
He probably could have seen us from wherever he was, but we couldn't, and we thought,
started trucking.
"Oh no, okay, well, let's go home."
Yeah, that is so funny.
So many of those stories as we got older. Yeah.
When I think of, I want each of you to come up with one more too, something from our childhood that mom or dad did or didn't do that was foundational for you. But when I think of it, there's so many things that come to my mind. I think like the structure thing was huge. I think every kid needs so much structure, like more structure than you can imagine. And I remember Dad saying always was, like, it was frustrating in the moment for sure when all our friends are like able to watch this movie and listen to that music and have sleepovers at different houses and all these different things. But there was so much, like, I wouldn't say fear, but just like, I remember Dad always saying, like, it's like a greenhouse. It's like you raise your children in a greenhouse. So when you're ready to release them, it's like the plants that grew up in the greenhouse are that much stronger and the roots are that much deeper than the plants in the garden. So when you pull the greenhouse away, it's like, oh, those plants are bigger, stronger, better. But I just think, like, even now, and maybe you guys feel this, but going back to like this summer, we have a big Noble reunion. And what is there now? How many kids is there? Like 27 or 8 or grandkids? I mean,
Yeah, something like that.
Everyone's married but 2. No, Paul, pressure.
Yep. I'm part of that crew.
And so it's just a big full-time. Mom and Dad own a quarter section on a lake there. It's just so fun. But even now, going back, like, I've been out of the home for 17 years or whatever it is, 30, almost 35. And there's the structure. You get back to Mom and Dad's. Do you guys just feel this? Like, you just breathe out. And it's like back at Mom and Dad's. And it's like you have breakfast and Dad pulls out his old King James Bible, opens up to John the Baptist or whatever, or opens up to some story. If the world's crashing, if there's a doctor appointment, if there's, like, no matter what it is, you're having breakfast devotions. Like, that came first. Or the other thing was seeing Mom and Dad pray together. I think every morning,
right after devotions, when we'd all
after
go
devotions,
get our piles.
yeah,
Of
we'd put our
laundry,
piles
of laundry, and put them away.
Yeah. And Mom and Dad just praying together, and the morning devotions. And sometimes I'm quite sure, like, this isn't just from a kid's perspective, I'm quite certain devotions was like an hour sometimes in the morning. And then
breakfast was at 7:30, and I remember many times it going past 9:30 devotions. And so, like, breakfast was what, 30 minutes, maybe 45.
Yeah.
Bunch of boys, we just inhaled the food. So
yeah, and when we say devotions, it meant Dad opens his old King James and he reads, a chapter, or maybe he reads 2 verses and then starts expounding on it for 45 minutes, and then it's like, we didn't even know Dad, how did this get back to American politics or the War of 1912 or whatever? But then we would all go around and say a prayer request that we had. And for years, Joe prayed for John, our neighbor's tractor, John Nance tractor. When he was probably 4, prayed for John Nance tractor. And that tractor lasted a long time, like a long time. But sometimes we just had our prayer requests, for 3 years, and we say the exact same prayer request every single day. And then we had our missionaries, people in full-time missions that we'd pray for, that sent us their letters or whatever, and we'd pray for them. And then we'd go around and we'd all pray. Every once in a while, one of us would be asleep. So when it came your turn, you didn't pray, and you'd get elbowed or laughed at or whatever. But just that kind of structure, what seems so, like, I don't know how to say it. It felt like maybe like non-free, or like, how come we just can't go do our own thing? It's like, now looking back, I'm so thankful for that, because that was like preparation time and building foundation time for our life. And so now, like I was saying, going back to mom and dad, it just feels like it's that same structure. And it's like the consistency, knowing that dad and mom will always be steady, slow and steady, except mom's fast. Dad and mom, and they'll always be the same, is so settling, even for a 35-year-old kid. Now, to think of dad, even when dad walks in our house, it's like actually, this is amazing. Dad just phoned us up the other day. Hey, can I stay the night for 3 nights on a deputation trip? I'm okay. Yeah, sure. Like when? Like in a month? I'm 3 hours away. Oh, okay. And it's like, that's very normal. But like when dad walks into the room, it's like he brings his entire ecosystem and environment with him, and ain't nobody gonna change that. He brings it to his pace, and it's not a selfish thing. It's just like dad's not swayed by fast pace and speed, and like, no, this is the new priority, and it's so just like grounding.
Mom and dad were both rocks in their own way. Like mom was the structure, and dad like was the stream that just kind of went with it, was guided by it. Yeah. But he also he moved in his own element. And I remember him often saying, because I would get all bent out of shape about time, I'd be like, Dad, we were supposed to be there.
No, I never did.
And dad would just be like,
even hunting together.
And I'd just be like, Dad, we need to go. And dad'd be like, no, people are more important than time.
Yeah.
And so, and like, I always remember that. And then hunting, he'd be like, a moose is more important than walking back in the light. And I'm like, Dad, there's grizzlies out here.
It's so true. It's so true. What are other things that you guys look back on and see like things that mom and dad did or didn't do? Because there's a lot of things they didn't do that were really grounding for us and monumental for us. Mare?
Yeah. Well, actually, not long ago, we were talking about this because Vadim and I have really been just trying to practice Sabbath, not in a religious way, but just in a way of of stopping, taking a day off. And so for us, that day has become Saturday. Just logistically, Sunday is a really busy day for us. But so we were talking about it with my family, and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, Sabbath. Dad was very, very conscious of taking a day off on Sunday. So we would if we went to church, that sounds bad. But after church, then it was...
Because we'd often have home church.
You have to take... Yeah, because sometimes we'd have home church. Or we'd
Presbyterian Tuesday night church.
Yeah, or traveling to other churches. It was kind of all over with the missionary lifestyle. But but church was always a priority. So even if we were at home, we would have home church as a family. And then naps. You had to have a nap on Sunday.
Wait, how long?
I don't remember, actually.
1 hour.
No. Paul.
Maybe they were easier on you, but by the time it came around to me, it was an hour.
When I was a child, Paul,
14 hours.
It was 3-hour naps.
It was not.
I will phone mom right now.
That's so funny.
Where's my phone? Oh, my phone's the camera. It was 3 hours for forever, and I remember thinking like, my life is wasting away.
Yeah. And it wasn't like you could read either.
No,
like that was
napping.
Lights off. You could lay quietly in your bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may have had a book under my bed at one point.
Who didn't? We were all rebels in our own way.
I confessed that to Salem the other day. I said, I did kind of have a
Every
book.
once in a while.
And then I felt so guilty. I confessed to my mom at one point.
Sabbath.
But Sabbath was so important, and that resting. And even often we would, especially as teenagers, want to go and do things with our friends Sunday afternoon, because often people were out doing things, and we like to play baseball or volleyball. But
we had a cool community, by the way.
Yeah.
Like tons of homeschoolers around us, and like lots of sporty
families. Yeah.
I was gonna say cool homeschoolers, but like just like like it was a culture. For sure, of like lots of homeschoolers.
Athletic homeschoolers.
I think we don't really necessarily recognize how many of those homeschoolers were inspired by our mother, because when mom started homeschooling,
It was not cool.
It was not cool.
It was unheard of.
It was, yep. And she created did her own curriculum with Rebecca.
35 years ago she started. 34.
And because I remember many of these close friends of ours that I think of, remember the first year when we knew them. A lot of them were either in public school or they just moved to the area from public school.
Yeah.
And these moms, I just remember I remember so many times seeing them going and talking to mom about how do you do this and how can we make this happen?
Is this legal?
Yeah.
but it is true. It's kind of I don't want to say a fad, but very popular now. And I think obviously through COVID and with what's happening with government politics and stuff like that. But it was not only was it not cool, it was there weren't really tons of systems for it.
Right.
It was kind of a Becca out of Florida, right? I think our curriculum.
No, there's definitely more support now. I definitely think our parents were pioneers in that.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of that movement, but also
Mom was a teacher, by the way.
Yeah.
She went to Florida for 4 years.
Yeah. But yeah, about the Sabbath, I think what I was just saying
Bring
with
us
that
back,
is that the dad did just have a lot of value on that, and he would even say no, I don't want you. I don't want you guys to go out today. It wasn't we could never go out and do things. Yeah. But I want you to rest. And I just remember being rest. Why do we need to rest? We just slept for 3 hours. Yeah. But now as a parent, I'm oh, I get this. The rest part. And so when we say about things that we didn't do, I think of that Sabbath of him just being no, I know everybody's doing that, but I just don't feel we should all be doing that.
Right.
Just because everybody's doing it. And so dad definitely wasn't afraid to say no to things. Just no, I don't think that, I think our family needs some rest, or our family needs family time.
Right.
He very much prioritized, mom and dad both just prioritized our family and was okay, stop. Let's deal with what's going on in the family. Yeah. And then move on to the things. So the ministry was a priority, but always the family was a higher priority than the ministry. So it was always a stop. Okay, what's happening with you, Paul? Let's deal.
Right.
Let's get to the bottom of that. And so
which is so cool too for 9 kids. We have 5. I'm you feel so stretched then, Mary, how's that affected you today, the Sabbath, and seeing mom and dad model that? Because I would say again, even up hunting ever since ever, nobles have done a noble hunt 1 to 2 weeks. And which you need to go on one of these days, Mary.
I've never been.
That is actually interesting. Mom came one time though. I remember we did a horse hunt there.
Potato Mountain.
Yes, Potato Mountain. Mule deer. Dave got a mule. But even keep me on track. Even up hunting on Sunday, Dad doesn't hunt, and we kind of have to sneak out early while Dad's still sleeping if we want to hunt on Sunday. It's the Sabbath is just nope. The Lord blesses, and I cannot remember how many times Monday morning or even Sunday a moose walks right into our camp or a caribou.
And Dad would have church too in the mountains.
Yeah, we would.
It was
around the campfire.
It was a 3 to 5 hour process of
But do you remember
dinner and then breakfast?
It's true. Do you remember that one time a moose came in right into camp? Big bull moose.
That was the year before I came. It was my. It was
right in the middle of church, and we just went crazy, and we started grab our guns. It's this big bull moose. Which is what we were hunting, moose and caribou, and it comes right in, and we just start blasting at it. All of us miss. I think there was 3 of us, or one started. Then it's okay, well, if it's wounded, we got to put it down. And this moose just kind of kept walking and running and ran through it, went up, nothing. We've completely missed, and it's the Lord was nope, this is Sabbath. But Dad did make the caveat: if it's the Sabbath and a moose walks comes to you can shoot it.
It's kind of pulling your donkey out of the ditch, except shooting the moose in your camp. That's allowable on the Sabbath.
If it comes, the Lord's bringing it or whatever. But anyway, that's not just something Dad does. That's who he is. He lives Sabbath.
Yeah.
All the time.
And it's not this religious thing.
No,
even
it's a lifestyle of rest.
It's a lifestyle of rest. And so even when there would be a busy weekend and there'd be a rodeo, because he would do cowboy churches, so obviously that would just be a really busy Sunday. And then Monday was the day off. And we would take the day off, or we would go then as a family out camping for a couple of days, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think for us, like even just as we have been rediscovering this rest, and for our family, how important this is, Vadim and I, we've just really been drawn back to like, oh, this isn't new. This isn't, we kind of think like, oh, we discovered this new thing. And it's like, mom and dad have been doing that their whole lives. And I grew up doing it, but I think kind of trickled out of that through the young adult years, sort of observing, a bit of rest here and there. But I
culture
think,
doesn't do it.
But culture doesn't do it. And
along.
So I feel like it's been this very, for us, intentional, like stepping back and being like, no, let's go back to this.
Yeah.
Back to these basics, these fundamentals. And mom and dad, meanwhile, are still going along.
Yeah.
And so it is very, inspiring and encouraging in that. It's like, oh, you can do this for life. It's not just like a kick that we get on for a year or two, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which they were so good at, by the way. Paul, what's something else that you just feel like mom or dad did or didn't do that have set you up? Or maybe even in your present life or work life or whatever, you just realize like, oh, I've had experience here.
Yeah. Actually, there's a very relevant one that comes to mind is traveling with dad, and kind of the itinerant missionary life is not far off from political life. Like when a campaign comes, you're traveling through the riding, you're stopping, you're talking with people, the schedule gets blown to shreds and you just have to work with it. You go to events and you set up a table and you talk with people. And
you're saying now.
Right now, yeah.
In politics. Yeah.
And or even like you're helping people when they have difficulties with the government, and they come to you, and if you've ever had a problem with the CRA, like it sucks the life out of you.
Right.
And so it's like these people will come and ask for help, and we like do our absolute best to do it.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because so many of these parallels are so close to the missionary life, and where it's like you're meeting people where they are. You are often meeting people at their lowest. And then you're also like dealing with the barbs and arrows and attacks of like other people who think you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
So it's funny in that way. And like, I feel like my childhood actually very much prepared me for the current job I'm doing, besides the reading part, which is obviously a big help.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's so true. The other thing that came to my mind was, man, this is so cool. Actually, just like reminiscing about like the foundations that we came from and how that sets you up. It's like so good. But the other thing I was thinking is just the because we grew up in the country, for early part of our life, 2 hours out of town, and then most of our life, 35 minutes out of town. And so we, lived out in the country. There was definitely people over all the time. Like even in the middle of Sabbath, like our place was the place to be, especially as teenagers, like lots of friends coming over and volleyball and hang out and like just big, sledding with the old GTs and crazy carpets and stuff, but riding horses, whatever it was. But I definitely think like the experience that we got, or the experience that I got, learning to do carpentry and helping dad build his shop and doing electrical for that shop and helping lay the foundation for that shop, making my dune buggy. Remember my dune buggy?
Yeah. Out of the one that always wheelied because you didn't have enough weight in the front.
Yeah. The engine's in the back. It's called a pancake engine, 79 horsepower from a VW Vanagon, early 70s. And I learned to weld with that dune buggy, and I learned how to drive or not drive, or all our horses. We had a ton of horses, and like experience with horses and working hard and shoveling snow and getting firewood just like all this mechanicking and everything, like all this experience. It's actually crazy that like even now in a very different world, pastoring for me, pastoring for you, piano teaching, homemaker, parenting, politics, that like how much you use those skills still, you know, it's actually just like shocking how many things you look back on in your life and it's like, oh yeah, I have experience here.
Or even just thinking of like the hosting that mom and dad did. Like I remember so many, like I grew up thinking it was normal for a family to show up on your doorstep and be like, hey, can we we need help. Yeah. And like, I remember multiple families staying with us for like days, if not weeks,
months. Helmet, Mary, Helmet and Marie. Yeah. I think they were like a year or half a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just remember thinking like
from Switzerland
this gracious hosting where now I'm like, I think very little of. It's like, oh yeah, if you want to come on over. Yeah. And I wouldn't say I'm an extrovert, but for me, it's like, it comes very easily because I saw it exemplified by our parents. That like if somebody needs help or if somebody comes over, the relationship is much more important than the inconvenience.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yet mom just continued life. We just did life, right? She'd be like, here, peel some carrots with me. And I feel like that's how they manage that type of hospitality, you know, with a big family. And they made it just part of part of their life.
Yeah. You come to the house, you're your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much so that there'd be a party of 20 or 40 people at our house. Do you guys remember this? And mom and dad would go to bed.
Yeah.
It's their bedtime. It's 9:00 or whatever. And they just, okay, see you guys. Turn out the lights. I mean, that was obviously, you know, as we were getting older or whatever. Yeah. But
totally.
No, it's so good. Just like thinking back, you know, what amazes me is seeing people like Tian and I've said so many times, like the foundation that has been placed for us. You don't even realize the foundation that's been placed by you, before you, from your parents and your grandparents and your great grandparents and your great great grandparents. And wasn't it Dad's dad that gave his life to the Lord in the war?
Just
Grandpa Noble.
Just after?
Yeah.
I was actually just talking with Mary about this the other day. I was like, who would have thought, like, when Grandpa, because he gave his life to the Lord because he was chasing Grandma, and Grandma said she wouldn't date a non-believer.
Right. Flirt to convert.
She was okay with flirt to convert.
Yeah.
And
come on.
But you look at, and then he kind of separated from his family because his family didn't want anything to do with him.
Right.
After that, and they didn't, and he didn't want anything to do with them. But you look at the trajectory that it then placed us on, where it actually, like, it changed his entire bloodline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, looking forward.
Yes.
Like, he cut ties with his older, like, one could say toxic family.
Right. Yeah.
And instead embarked on this new journey, which is like, it's brought us to this place where we are today.
Well, now one of his kids, Dad, Mary's mom, and there's 27 grandkids or whatever. Right. It's so cool. Like all 9 passionately following the Lord too. It's like, man, they did something right. But it's like you can't take it for granted. And of course, knowing that like they aren't perfect, and we obviously aren't perfect, but like you can't take it for granted, and you don't even fully understand the foundation that's been laid. But what impresses me so much is somebody who did not have a great foundation, and I won't mention names, but I'm thinking very specific people who actually had a horrible foundation given to them, passed down to them, and they had no idea what fathering was supposed to be like, or mothering was supposed to be like, or how to raise children, or how to have a good work ethic, or character, or morality, or how to love Jesus, or how to spend time with the Lord, or be taught all that stuff. And they were just dealt kind of a horrible deck and had a horrible foundation. And then it stopped with them, and they reset. And now they are amazing parents, and some of them in our church, and they're amazing parents, like amazing parents. And it like stopped with them, and now they're laying this beautiful foundation for the next generation. You know.
Yeah. And they know what it cost, right? I think
Right,
that's the thing for
right.
like us, you know, growing up in that with that, you definitely take that for granted a lot.
Yeah.
And then I think it's so powerful to reminisce about these things and
Yeah.
say like, oh, actually like grandpa did this. Actually, our other side of the family too, grandpa and grandma came to know the Lord.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's just not that many generations back for us that there was like a stop and a reset and turn, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Which we are benefiting out of
Yeah.
enormously, like,
Yeah.
which is just amazing that obviously we still have to make all these choices and do all these things, but we've been given a lot, right? In that.
Yeah. I think as in Proverbs says, you'll know wisdom by its fruit. And it's just so cool, like seeing, and it's interesting too, because it felt like when we first left home, it's like, you just see like, you know, mom and dad were wrong here. And why do they do this? And I'm not going to do that. And it's like, and it's like, you just kind of come full circle and realize like, oh man, there's wisdom by its fruit. Look at the fruit. It's like, there's something, and again, far from perfect, very far from perfect, but you just see like, oh, there's something there. You know what? Before we close, we're slowly getting out of time. I'd love for you guys to each share like one little nugget that makes this entire podcast worth it. Like, it's got to be a level 10 out of 10 nugget that you learn, you know, maybe from mom or dad, or now that have learned later in your life from having foundations. Or maybe an encouragement to somebody who didn't have that foundation. And maybe feels like, ooh, I didn't have that foundation. What can I do or whatever? But I was just thinking, there's so many different things, principles that mom and dad taught us. Like, I would think like how to spend time with the Lord. It's like, that sounds so simple. Like, you know, have devotions and journal and read your Bible and be praying and like read your Bible through this. And like dad getting very specific with me, like seasons in my life where I was just like angry as a kid and hated school and hated reading and loved doing things with my hands, you know? But I remember dad like sitting down and like teaching me how to spend time with the Lord. It's like he saw that I was angry and just really struggling with school. And there was all these bad fruits coming out. Probably not. I mean, word has it, sometimes I wouldn't even treat my siblings very well. That's what I hear. Or that I would be a little bit bossy with them and trying to control them. Paul, why are you laughing?
We didn't call you the pickle king because you were so sweet.
The pickle king?
The pickle king.
He would sit on his throne and get us to bring him pickles, and he would eat them.
And do you remember Jim the Great? Like playing king or whatever?
Yeah.
Or maybe we weren't playing.
Or the bass, the amplifier game.
Yeah, made up so many random games.
And it was hard to win. Turns out Jimmy made up all the rules for those games.
Oh, Lord. Where was it going? What was it talking about? Oh, dad sitting down in that moment. There was all this like bad fruit in my life starting to be exposed and stuff. But it's like dad didn't like start picking apart the fruit, like the anger and the hating school and being mean to mom in school and all these different things, of being lazy and falling asleep in the devotions, sleeping in it, all this stuff. Dad like went right to the source and knew this guy, Jimmy, at 12 or whatever, is not connected to the vine. I can tell. John 15. He's not connected to the source. I need to get him. I'm just feeling kind of weight on this right now. Like, if I can get him connected to the vine, he's going to flourish in every area. And I actually feel that for me right now, and maybe for our people listening, for parents or people you're discipling or different pastors or whatever. Like, if you can get people connected to the vine. This is why we push so hard at Evangel, to teach people to hear Jesus's voice. If you can learn to hear his voice and discern it, you don't have to go. You don't have to go through the pastor or through the counselor or through the coach or through the whatever it is. It's like you're connected to the vine. Of course, you need people around, and so Dad sat down with me and taught me how to get connected to the vine very specifically. Jimmy, I opened my Bible, grab your Bible. I had a new King James, he had the old King James, still have it, and open it up, read until something sticks out to you. When that sticks out, write that verse down in your notepad or in your journal, and then below it, and then pray for the Holy Spirit to illuminate it or to reveal it, give you revelation on it, and then write down what it means to you. And just like very specifically getting me connected back to the vine, which I think is not just so important, it is of the utmost importance. There's so many things. I could just talk forever about the different things that like are still like such strong principles for me right now. But what about you guys? Last things that have changed your life or that you live by or that you want to encourage somebody with?
The thing that just comes to my mind, and maybe that's been because it's been a bit of a word for me this year, is dream. And to dream big, to think big. Because I know for me, I can start to get detailed and into the bogged down and forget to like look up and what God is doing. And I really feel like our parents instilled that in us, that dreaming. To do like I just remember my dad, like, you can do anything. Like I remember this is a funny example, but like I was painting and I remember he saw it and he's like, we got to get this girl some paints,
Wow.
She's going to be a painter. Well, I don't know if any of you have seen my artwork recently. I'm not a painter, but but just that like point. But just that encouragement of being like, try this. Like, not afraid to fail, right? Like, buy baby calves and raise them up and sell them. And then, you guys can make some money and just try it. So let's try it. So we drive the truck down south and bring these calves up in the back of the truck and bottle feed them. Yeah, in the canopy. Like we're not this big ranching operation, but I mean, my dad always had a rancher's heart. So the animals he was always encouraging, but I feel like it was like that with anything. It was like music. It's go for that. Do it. If you're passionate about that, do it. And I feel like that has been very influential in me and in the way I'm parenting my kids, going like, oh yeah, you want to do that? You want to have that kind of business? Go ahead, do it. Try it. In my head, I'm like, that's not the kind of thing that I would do, but to encourage them to chase after that and to walk through that process. And I feel like even within ministry, everything, I feel like it's infected every area. If you think of all of our siblings, there's just, we are very diverse, I would say. I mean, there's a few of us in ministry, but there's everybody's in all kinds of things. It's just go for it, try it, do it
all over.
But that same still connected to the vine, right? Like be connected to Jesus and follow Jesus, but try anything, like try all these things, do it. And I really feel like that has inspired me as a person to feel like, maybe to the point where we feel like we can do anything. It's probably a fault of ours as nobles, but to feel like, oh yeah, sure, I can do that. I've never flown a plane, but I guess I'll learn how. They need us to fly a plane, so we'll learn how to fly a plane. So,
true story.
But just kind of that mentality of like, just try it and go for it. And we've never led worship, but okay, let's lead worship. I remember as teenagers or preteens. Church. So all of a sudden we were leading worship, and oh man, I'm sure it was terrible, but it just. Okay, like just try and get out there and do it. So I feel like that's been very powerful. And for me with parenting, thinking of raising your kids as dreamers and entrepreneurs, and to think like, I can do these things. Really
that's so cool. Do you guys remember Dad taking up guitar lessons at like 55 years old or whatever? try anything, step into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Or even mom.
Yeah.
Deciding to get her grade 8. Well, she had how many kids?
Yeah.
She had
Like
two or
piano.
3 kids in
Grade
piano.
8 in school or in piano? After she taught us.
Maybe I should.
Clarify.
Clarify, piano. And she just like made it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Last words, Paul. Give
Actually,
us some motivation.
mine actually ties in very much with Mary's. The one thing I think of is that our parents, well, they encouraged us to dream big. But also they encouraged us to plant seeds
Yeah.
for that stuff. So it wasn't just like, oh, if you want to go be a musician, just go be a musician. No, it was like, they're like,
Yeah.
nope. So all of us started music lessons somewhere around 5
Piano.
and piano. And then some of us branched out into other instruments and then did music lessons till we were 18. We all did speech arts, learning how to do public speaking. Like these are the things that I think of that our parents did that at the time, like some of us loved them, some of us hated them. Different times it was both, but they set us up they planted these little seeds that it's like public speaking. Our parents didn't know where we were going,
Right.
but they knew there's a very, very good chance that we would need to be able to speak in public.
Speech arts, poems, drama.
Yeah. Or even music. Like
Yeah.
it's not, none of us, well, are really
Travel the
professional.
world doing music.
Yeah. But
I mean, I almost did. but
you're close, but you just didn't travel the world.
They didn't sign me.
Yeah. Whoever they were. But they got us ready for this stuff where they said, listen, dream, like shoot for the stars. If you want to do it, I very distinctly remember Dad, and I was like, I don't know how old I was, like probably 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And I just remember on this long deputation trip with Dad, and it was like, for some reason we were driving at 6 a.m, and I remember that because it's so rare. Dad does
Right.
not drive at 6 a.m.
He pulls over on the side of the road
and sleeps.
5 times throughout the night and
Yeah.
sleeps out.
Yeah, this was, but like we left early in the
Love
morning.
you, Dad.
And I said to Dad, and I very intently thought this through, and I was like, Dad, I think I'm going to become president of the United States.
Whoa.
And my dad did not skip a beat, and he's just like, yeah, if you think you want to do that, start moving in that direction, like start
Wow.
setting stuff up. And I just remember like thinking that this was this big audacious plan.
Right.
And my dad was not even fazed by it. But he'd also
Yeah.
like started planting these seeds in our lives that I use the analogy, this wasn't grain that he was planting. He wasn't planting stuff for next year. He was planting acorns, stuff that doesn't come up for 50 or
That is
100
so
years.
good, Paul. That's so good.
And I just like, I reap the benefit of it, but it's also something that I want to pass on. And I think that's something that other people should also look at is like, how do we not just plant grain? How do we plant acorns?
Right. Yeah. And thinking long term and not being impatient, thinking like, oh, it's been a year, it's been 2 years, like where's the fruit? And knowing too, it's like, man, we all went through our ups and downs and dark nights of the soul and mountains and valleys and stuff, you know. That's so good. That's so good. I think of the verse, I was trying to find it here. But he was faithful in little, will be faithful in much, and really just felt like mom and dad were so amazing at like stewarding the little and stewarding what they had. And I think the scripture that talks about, children are like arrows, and blessed is the man who has a quiver full of arrows, and you send them out in all directions, and the arrows go so much further than you went. It's like it definitely felt like they had such a long-term perspective that was so much further than them. And even mom, like, love you, Mom, if you're listening. I just think like mom has poured so much. Like obviously, they have the ministry and stuff, but so much into kids and grandkids. And even now, make sure and phone for every grandkid's birthday and send $25 for grandkids' birthdays. I know it's because Aria just had a birthday and we went to Dunveg and she bought a cactus. and a stuffy. But just like really pouring into the next generation. And I'm like, it's so crazy. Mom and dad have 9 arrows that they sent out further and faster and into areas that they could actually never go. And we get to do the same if we have that long-term perspective, steward the little things so we can be faithful much. And whether you have kids or not, the people that you disciple and are pouring into have that perspective. So it's been an hour. I don't really know how to wrap this up or like into a nice, neat ball, but I just thought it would be cool to honor our parents and the foundations we came from, and knowing too for our listeners that like maybe take a minute and like sit down and reminisce on where you came from. No matter how difficult it was, there will be good things that the Lord did throughout your childhood and upbringing, and beautiful things that you can be thankful. And I would also say to the people, and I'm not saying this from experience, so easier said than done, I recognize that, but the people who haven't, and I've seen this with some of my close friends who haven't had amazing foundations, that like this can reset and stop with you. There's so many people in scripture where it's like it's an evil line stopped with a king or with a person in scripture, and a righteous line started with the very next generation, you know, and then that's passed on and passed down. So it can start with you right now. And also lastly, just to be thinking like, man, what am I doing? Like Paul, what you're saying, like long-term, how am I thinking long-term? Like, how am I thinking Acorn, which takes however many years,
150 or more years,
which is insane. How am I thinking long-term like that? Because the longer term you can think, the better decision you're going to make.
I actually have a very good story on this.
Get it. And we'll end with that.
So a friend sent this to me recently, and it was the story of the main hall at Oxford, and the main beams that ran across the hall, massive oak beams, were getting beetly, which they do after about 500 years.
They were getting what?
Beetly, which basically beetles were
right. Yeah.
Anyways, the all the professors, they like came together because they're like, listen, how are we going to get like where do you find in a modern age, like how do you find these massive oak beams that you're not destroying like a pristine park? And this one young faculty member timidly raised his hand, and he's like, what if we got it from like the forest, like our forest, like our forestry area on the grounds? And so the dean went to their head forester, and foresters have preserved this area. There's been foresters hired there for 500 years. And he went to the forester and he asked him, he's like, listen, what would you guys think if we harvested one of these oak trees to use in the main halls? And the forester looked at him and he's like, I wondered how long it was going to be until you asked, because these oak trees that are 500 years old were planted to replace those beams in the school.
Wow.
No, when they built the school, they did not just build it for a time. They built it and then put things in place to rejuvenate it and replenish it 500 years later.
Wow.
Like, and that's something that they, like, I'm sure people called them idiots. And that's like, yeah, your little Christian school here, it's not going to go places. And they're like, no, we're planting oak trees here, because they're going to need it in 500 years.
Wow. That's so good. That's so true.
Yeah.
That is so good. Wasn't it too, Paul, history prof, who has read every book in the library? By the way, fun fact for fun, Paul does go to the library and finds a bunch of books and sits there with his coffee and reads. I should join you one of these times. I could look through a picture book.
A comic
I would.
book.
I can find you something that was interesting on a topic that I guarantee you've never thought about.
Yeah. I actually love history. World War II stuff, I love. I know there's more history than that, but
there's some other stuff.
But wasn't it when like the settlers were traveling around Columbus, that era, in their ships exploring new lands, that when they would land on with the big sail ships, when they would land on an island or a country or a continent, they would plant certain trees to grow up so that those trees in the future could become masts. So in case they're, they're, is it called a mast?
Yeah.
Mast broke, knowing that all these different places and locations, 60, 100, 150 years down the road, didn't have trees like this. They actually had, they had planned in advance that it's like, oh, there's these trees that are going to be future masts.
And it's funny because it's such a little thing that most people would say that's an inconvenience. Why are you packing trees onto your ship? Such as, Dad, like why devotions every morning?
Right.
Right? It's such a little thing that seems like an inconvenience at the time.
Where's the fruit? Jimmy's sleeping.
Exactly. Where's the fruit 3 years from now? Jimmy's still sleeping.
Has a blanket around him.
On Tuesday morning, and he's still not eating the oatmeal.
Yeah. I still don't like oatmeal.
But like these little inconveniences that from a short-term perspective, it's like, this is so inconvenient. Why do it?
Yeah.
But on a longer time horizon, it makes so much sense.
Yeah. So good. Cool. Any last words? One word? No words. Okay, we're out of time. That's the Backstage Pastor for you today. This is, again, my younger brother, Paul, who knows everything about everything. He read every book that ever there was, just about, and goes to the libraries for fun. And this is my older sister, who... What's a random fact about Mary?
How are you gonna get there?
Who also loves to read Jeanette Oak books.
Oh, wow.
Is
Jeanette
that true?
Wendell.
Is it Jeanette Oak?
Two.
Yeah,
There's
that
two
was
of
my
them. Yeah.
teenage.
Yeah.
That was my
Go check them
teenage
out.
reading.
I think they're good. Okay. Love you guys, and we'll see you guys next week.